Hello everyone, this is Ownership Report, and today we are joined by Umia. Uh, Hold on 1 second, let us get rid of the music, and yeah, so hello everyone, today is another Ownership Report with Umia. I'm very excited for this one because Umia is building something that we're all very familiar with, but they are doing something slightly differently, and that is very exciting. So I want to welcome uh, Oxytocin, Fra, and NFTboi to the show today. Hey guys, how are you guys doing?
Hello,
Very
doing
good.
pretty good over here.
Very good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's it's nice to be here. I think NFT boy, are you here? I see you don't have a
Yes,
profile
sir.
picture.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out how to put in a profile picture, but I'm here.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Um, I think we should just get right into it. So I will let you guys define what Umia is and what you guys are doing. So I guess Fra, feel free to go first, and then from there anybody can just chime in. So what is Umia, and yeah, what's coming?
Yeah. So I'd say at a high level, at the highest level, the goal of Umia is to bring to the market a platform that truly allows venture formation on chain, leveraging token and using tokens as a new financial primitive to back great idea, great idea, great project and ventures in a truly, let's say, crowdfunded way. We've built it with a founder first approach. We built it to give founders full flexibility to be where they are and to sort of have something that is truly innovates across the whole stack, from the legal framework to the token auction part, to the treasury part, to the governance part, and makes it something that is really custom made around what's needed for them, and what on the other side allows investor to underwrite the risk and the upside and potential the upside that comes with investing in small cap tokens, or like I hear ideas and ventures. So that's really high level what we're doing, and has a lot of different ways we can take it, but I'd say this is the goal. The goal, actually, I'd say the end goal of all of this is when we're going to have a new token framework based on what Umia is and what also the other participants are doing in the space, that is proven to be superior to what's around, and where people are going to start saying, okay, tokens, the part that we had, an ERC20 token or a Solana token, whatever it is, was just a part of it. And there are these teams, and now we're able to innovate across the whole spectrum to have something that is a financial primitive, which, regardless of being a crypto native or regardless of being whatever, I'm just an alternative asset investor. I see it as having real value and being something truly unique and useful for everyone. So yeah, that's what we want to build, and hey, we're soon to make it a reality next week. So very excited.
So I guess I'm going to go next and go even more higher level at what we are trying to build with Umia. Basically, we just want to make tokens what we were in from the beginning. I can't really talk about everyone else, but the reason why I started like believing in tokens and actually taking part in the ecosystem was because I got sold this idea that tokens gave you a say directly on the way that the project was going to be going. Like if you wanted to be part of something from the beginning, tokens were the best way to be going forwards. Previously, I helped on delegation from other DAOs, be it on Optimism, be it on Arbitrum, and that was the idea that I found very exciting. And it's something that like it's still very unique of our ecosystem compared to everyone else. That like if you want to make a change, you can just write to a founder, you can go directly to the team, give an idea, and be able to actually have a way forward. And what we're trying to make with Umia is an actual framework that is able to make tokens into a real serious thing, as opposed to the pinky promise that tokens have been until now. Because while we had this promise that like they were going to be a way for you to have an actual say, the reality is that up until now it was just a matter of trust. And as we've seen over and over again over the last few months, many different tokens decide to just like break the trust and rock the promise, rock the treasury, do whatever they want. And with the Umia framework, we make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I guess I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you guys came into doing this, and like what are you guys' background, and how does idea even started, or when did it get started? I mean, I think I've recently started seeing Umia more and more, but
Yeah.
I didn't really see it before then, so I'd love to know like where you guys started, um, and yeah, how this idea came to be.
Yeah, so I can take this, and the way that Rumian came to be, I think, is very, at least for me, I think is unconventional. Um, I come from a quantitative trading background. I was working in hedge fund a few years ago in New York, and then I started Chainbound, which is the laboratory, the R&D laboratory behind all of this. And I started with the mandate of saying there's a lot of there's a lot of things to build across blockchains, and we want to sort of build the best place for people to express their talent and to express what they believe needs to be built. And we achieved that goal a few times, I think. The first one was we built a solution for and it was an infrastructure service for a service provider for high frequency traders and searchers and MEV people called Fiber. And I think we very succeeded with that. We got to a duopoly across Blockstrat that lasted years, and that was the first part of our Chainbound. That lasted for a while, and then I'd say 9 months ago, we sit down as a team and we're like, all right, at the infrastructure stack, we researched for months, and we're like, there's a lot of interesting primitives around here that we could implement, but there's nothing that we say is a industry defying innovation here. And why? Is because the conclusion was the bottleneck right now as an industry is not the infrastructure study, is at the sort of at the primitives, at more of a fundamental level, which is we need to bring new financial primitives on blockchains to really unlock the new use cases that blockchain allow, right? And so that was the first thing where I started. For the first time, we moved from just infra to saying, okay, now we need to look, and we have the opportunity to build something new. And the first thing that came to my mind, it was realistically, tokens are not working. And on the other side, we know that technically tokens are an amazing innovation on many different ways, because the programmability of tokens, the composability of tokens, the flywheel effect that tokens gives on early users and so on, the borderless capital formation ability that tokens gives you. So wherever you're from, you can raise. And these are all things that are truly things. But the success of this was not never taken to the level that it could have been, at least in our opinion. So we said that is the opportunity. How we define that is with building a platform to allow tokens to become a real financial primitive. So initially, from a very technical point of view, we wrote down an internal sort of white paper that defined it, and then slowly in the months we refined it, and we got to an idea, which was we cannot just have, for example, a launchpad without a governance framework, because otherwise you lose the ability to sort of provide the investor the ability to underwrite a long-term investment, because they don't know truly which governance is going to go after it. And we cannot just have a governance framework without a launchpad, because otherwise we don't find PMF, and that's what happens with many other solutions. And then on the other side, we know that the current governance framework don't work, and decision markets was at least one of the best experiments that we see around. And we said, okay, I think we can expand it and bring it more to production and so on, and improve it on many different aspects, at least that we believe we improved it. And so that was the way that we got from saying we want to build, we believe there is a lot to do in the industry, but to solve all the problems that plagued our industry across value accrual, across capital formations, across regulatory clarity, across connection between the legal framework and the technical framework and all this stuff. And Umia, in my belief, is the perfect exemplification of this problem to solution framework. Yeah.
So guess I'll go next then. I feel I've already outlined like how we got here from a very fundamental basis, the idea of like making a framework that actually makes tokens exciting again. So I'll go a bit more about my personal background since I already teased about it on the last answer. But basically, I came from a neuroscience background. That's where the name Oxytocin comes from. Trying to find something that like was the cutting edge, trying to have something where we could work together, coordinate on something to be able to push new ideas, to be able to push new concepts. That in turn led me to the Web3 ecosystem. It was an ecosystem that I'm also very personally attached to due to my background from a Latin American country where monetary policy, let's say, is not ultrasound. But going from there, we ended up like discovering like all these different ways of governing, be it from like one token, one vote, be it from one person, one vote, but all of them fundamentally ended up either rugging or failing. I would like to share, for example, an example that happened just yesterday. There was a vote from a major ecosystem that had over 50 million in tokens allocated. These 50 million tokens, they didn't really have much traction anymore. People weren't seeing it as an interesting allocation. So there was a vote saying like, okay, let's change this entire allocation from one thing to another. Despite being 50 million, only 70K was actually voting on this. And why was the reason? Because one token, one vote system simply were not working anymore. People were completely burnt out, and there was no incentive for people to actually take part in this. If this was something like a decision market, like futarchy, there would be an actual pricing for each one of these to be executed. And these were the fundamental changes that ended up getting me motivated to start working on futarchy and start to bring it to the EVM. Because without a framework that actually prices decisions and makes them important, you end up with similar votes that just like go nowhere and have no accountability.
And when did you guys come to decision markets? I think that's a very interesting question because I feel like a lot of us who are in crypto and who like finance, at first when we see decision markets, it kind of makes sense. Like we don't shy away from it, but it's like, yeah, it's kind of cool. And then when you look into it, that's when you really get nerd sniped and you're like, holy, how has nobody tried this at scale? And why is nobody using this? So how did you guys find out about futarchy? What was that decision like? I mean, this is not a proven governance model at this moment, at least. So basing a whole product around decision markets is, it is a brave choice.
So I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
You muted.
I wanted to add one thing. So where we got where I first learned about it was in SBC last year. I don't know which part of the conference, but I remember clearly being outside the conference and be like, okay, this is a very interesting framework of governance. And I don't remember exactly who anyway. And I always try to remember this thing, but it was SBC in Berkeley. And so that was the first thing. Then we started looking at different sort of governance solutions that there are. I built this big document internally of like comparing them, right? Like what are the effects of one another's and what are the sort of, let's call it a SWOT analysis of the different things, a comparison analysis. And it was clear that if you have a strong opinionated tokenomic, and if you have a meaning that there is real distribution in token ownership, and if with a few other caveats, decision markets are a very, very compelling alternative to governance than others. On top of that, we come with assumption that pure voting, token voting, is not working, at least from our perspective. It's not been something that any project is actually using that to work. So we said on one side, we have something that we know doesn't work. On the other side, we have something which it's sort of starting to, it was experimental. I think more and more has been proven to be something that can work. And on top of that, we also know that we can iterate and build on it and keep it as a core component and sort of build it with the founders to be something that works at best to protect the investors on one side, to give the founders the flexibility they need to express their potential on the other side, and yeah, to have something that can iterate on it and so on. So TLDR is, we think is a great starting point. We think is a great alternative. We will iterate and we will build on top of it. So this is not just a static thing where we say, this is, you trade higher, that's it. This could be different type of decision market. It could be decision market for certain things and not for others, and so on. So that is where we want to lead.
Meanwhile, on my side, I actually think I have a funny story about this, because my experience with future key at the beginning was very head-on, with very experimental kinds of future key that were specifically for one-off advisory future key on very limited use cases. So yeah, it was just like I was seeing these votes happening. They were just advisory. They weren't really getting much traction. Nobody had any reason to actually participate in them. So I was like, okay, future key is cooked. Like, there's no point in actually thinking about these markets. I don't see the point of this. Then I meet with the Chainbound team. We start talking about this, and they start saying like, okay, but what if the decision markets actually had accountability to go forward with them? What if the vote wasn't just a proxy to the decision and they were all one and the same thing? And that's when something really clicked for me, because the real problem up until now with future key, just like with every token voting system that happened before, is that it was just a suggestion. It was like writing on a suggestion box and just saying, okay, that's what I want to do. Team, can you do that? Yes or no? But the moment you make it actually accountable, that's when the game completely changes. And that's what I find was the 0 to 1 moment for me for future key.
NFTboi, by the way, if you're here, I'd love to hear your side as well.
Yeah. So for me, I actually found futarchy via MetaDAO almost like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. I have some very close friends who've been in MetaDAO for a long time. My brother as well, also been a big MetaDAO bull forever. And when I first looked at it, this was like before the token split migration and all this kind of stuff. It was sold to me as futarchy as a service. And my takeaway was basically, okay, this is an interesting intellectual concept. But as Oxy was saying, I didn't really understand why there was added value. One, if the team didn't essentially have to do what was being suggested, quote unquote. And also two, I didn't understand the sales pitch. Before this, I was working in growth equity for software. And so I'm very focused on like the practicality of go-to-market and how you actually sell things like this to teams. And so my feeling was this is a cool nerd snipe, a cool philosophical experiment. And I've always been an economics and capitalist nerd, so it made sense. But I kind of dismissed it and didn't invest in it until MetaDAO made the switch to become a ICO platform, or at least to let's say pivot to the asset futarchy model, where you onboard teams as a ICO or as a raise, as opposed to trying to plug it into existing tokens or existing teams. So to me, that was the moment, which I think was like actually about a year ago today, where it all kind of clicked for me. And ever since then, I've been pretty futarchy pilled. I've been doing a bunch of research around all of the projects that have launched, all of the kind of proposals. And to me, it feels like still the best solution for essentially community participation and for tokens that have inherent value. Obviously, as Frost said, I think that we are early on in the adoption curve and the growth curve of futarchy, and there needs to be a lot of iteration and experimentation. But to me, it feels directionally like the obviously best thing that's come from on-chain for tokens, in the last, let's say, this cycle.
So you already mentioned MetaDAO here, but can you guys hear me, by the way? Okay, everything's good. Yeah, I just thought my
Yes.
mic went out for that. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so you already mentioned MetaDAO. And I know you guys also, oh my God, these names, by the way, you guys use MetaLeX under the hood for the legal stuff. So I would love to hear for anybody who doesn't know what MetaLeX is and how this whole legal framework works, could you guys give a brief explanation on what MetaLeX is, what kind of legal papers you guys use, and how it may differ from, something like MetaDAO?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is MetaLeX is our general counsel. Is actually one of our two general counsel. We have MetaLeX and DLX. And the main, I'd say, differentiation is more of a ideological setup, in the sense that we believe that a platform with what we're building, and again, I want to highlight something. I highly admire what MetaDAO has been doing, and on top of it, we took some inspiration on what they're building, and I highly admire. So I compare to them and I look up to them a lot. That's something I want to highlight. But on the second, on these specific things, what I can say and what I think is the thing that I think we took it differently. So comparison wise is a different sort of approach, is that we want the projects to come on board and have this as a starting point in their framework, and have it that they come and they kick off their venture, their idea, their crowdfunding project, whatever it is, and then they can transition out through a decision market, so token approvals and everything, to whatever structure they want. The legal framework is, I'd say, more lean on that on our side. And then there are many other differences, mainly that are could be seen as details for others, but surely not for founders. But yeah, that I would say the most fundamental difference that we try to build it.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have any comments on that, Oxytocin?
Well, I feel like Fries are mastermind here, but I really like the flexibility stuff, because also like that's a factor that really can be the make it or break it moment for many projects. It can be like, okay, we know that now we want to be going with this model, but what's going to look like in 5 years, 10 years? Like the people that are building for the long term, they require this kind of flexibility.
Yeah, and I actually kind of appreciate that detail, because a lot of there might be a lot of projects who want to get out of these, crazy experimental structures, which are great for bootstrapping, and as Fra mentioned, for this crowd sale and for quickly bootstrapping. But then later on, maybe they want to go into more mature structure. So I think that's actually a pretty cool detail. I also believe you guys are doing something that I don't even know if I've ever really seen anywhere, which is I think you guys call it multiplex decision markets. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. I would love to hear more about that, on what that is and how that works, and why you took that decision to, instead of going, binary decision markets, to like multi-decision markets.
Sure. So from our perspective, the decision market logic has two functionalities. One is protect the capital allocator, investor, treasurer, depositors, however you want to call it, the crowdfunders. On the other side, it can be a functionality for the project itself, meaning that more modular we build the logic of the decision market, more keen a project is to use it as a coordination mechanism for decision that has to be taken by the utility of the token. So let's make an example. You are a protocol that does some risk curation, and that could be, should we have X, Y, Z, or W as our curators on our pool? And if you have the right modularity in decision market, the founder will look at Umia and gonna be like, I like Umia, but on top, you know what? I'm gonna use their logic that is fully enforceable, blah, 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 to help deciding on the curation, on who curates on the risk curation, right? So more we make it modular and better it is. How we make it modular is by having this multiplex, and the multiplex is mainly a result of having more than by result, more than yes and no result. So if you have multi results, so A, B, C, D, and E, you cannot have liquidity that is split across all, because otherwise you would have highly liquid markets with all the risks that come from high liquid markets, even on conditional markets. So what we built is this multiplex logic, which says the user deposits the assets, so whatever asset they want to deposit in the decision market, and these assets get deposited across all of the conditional market. And given that the smart contract logic only settles the market that wins, you can perfectly do it without having the double spend or triple spend, right? So that is the reason why we built it. And we are already seeing 2 projects in our pipeline that are looking to integrate this for nothing related to treasury, nothing related to board level sort of decision, but rather one wants a way to sort of pick which creators is going to be used to launch, and another one for a completely different trading related reason. But yeah, I hope this explained the fundamental reason why we went through that design choice.
Does that mean that you can also have, like on Umia, I could use these decision markets without launching on Umia? Did I understand that correctly? Or
I mean, in the sense, no, we don't want, we want to provide the full stack to the project. So it's rather you launch on Umia, and on top you can use this for things that are not related to treasury and so on. And it's rather more at the functional level of the protocol. Yeah.
yeah, so another thing that is a very difficult undertaking for this, and this goes for any launchpad, not just Umia, but anybody who's trying to solve ICOs, is the ICO itself, right? The mechanism that distributes the tokens and that decides who gets how much and what is even a fair allocation to people. And I know you guys are doing that differently. And this is a problem that I haven't really seen solved anywhere properly. Like all the problems are, all the solutions are, they all have very, very big cons. So I want to hear you guys' side on what you guys, like how that mechanism works and what are the pros and how does it improve upon like the most, the ICO structures, which I think most ICO structures today are like pro rata. Just a very simple, everybody gets allocated compared to, how much got deposited. So how does an ICO work on Umia?
Yeah. So let's start with, again, a bit of a high level thing that helps, at least shows how we reasoned around this. The first is any mechanism to auction off or to transact is as good as the parameters that are around it. In the case of an auction, of a token auction, is around, for example, tokenomic and initial and closing price, initial and max price, I would say. Like this is like how much you want to sell, what's the minimum, what's the maximum. How you do that and how you distribute and how you get to it is something around that, but those are like the artificial constraints that say that you put. So those three, and there are a few others that I don't actually come up to my mind now, but I would say those are the three most important, are artificially set, and where we as Umia, as a platform, we try to suggest the teams the right framework of that. And for example, the first one is 30 to 50% of the token supply has to be sold in the token auction. Otherwise, you have you have all the factors of having low float and having a lot of other sort of problems that come with that. And so we say 30 to 50% at minimum. And then the second thing is we discuss, depending on the type of project, on a realistic closing FTV and so on, hence a total amount that they can raise given that. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is how you get to the ultimate final clearing price is very complicated in any type of auction. It could be a Dutch auction, it could be whatever. And again, we explored all of them. And on one side, we got lucky that there is a great team, the Uniswap team, that built the logic of continuous clearing auction, because the continuous clearing auction is mainly a solution to solve sniping, to solve MEV, to solve overallocation, and so on, if it's used well. And we took that and we built on top of it. And what is the solution and what is the conclusion of all of this? That we have a framework that where a project comes and says, I want to sell between 30 and 50%. I need to raise X amount with a maximum valuation of Y, and I will let the market, through this very strong and very tamper, I don't know if tamper was the right word, but with this very clear framework, to come up to a final clearing price that is purely driven by demand and not artificially set either by the team, either by the Umia. Like we don't set the ultimate clearing price, and all of that. So that is, I hope, at the fundamental as well. I don't want to go into the technicalities of it because I think it's just not needed here, but rather this is why we use it and what we look for it and so on. Then the last thing I want to add is our token auction mechanism allows for something that any other mechanism doesn't allow, which is price discrimination, and hence the ability to skew ownership towards the token holders that you mostly want as a project. The CCA in its logic has a monotonically increasing price, meaning if you bid before, you will have an average lower price than if you bid later. So with that assumption, we built a logic in which we use the zkTLS proofs to allow people to bid earlier, hence skew ownership towards the people that are mostly aligned with the long-term development of the project, which is, again, another big solution that we're bringing to the market, to the project, saying you can skew ownership towards who you mostly want. And that could be anything from you are AI project and, okay, provide you need, and hence you allow people to bid in the earlier buckets if they provide a zkTLS proof of spending more than 100K on cloud credits last week, right? And you can fully do it in a privacy preserving way and so on. And on that, we built our extension, our Chrome extension that allows that, and it's as a part of the platform. So yeah, I hope these two parts of my answer why we did it and what's the innovation we brought to the market with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that does sound very, very cool. I think I might might even I don't bridge many times from Solana, but for this one I might just bridge just to, see this in action because it sounds very exciting. Because I don't think I've ever really participated in such ICO. So I'll I'm very excited to see how it plays out, which brings us to our next point, which is you guys' ICO, which is coming up pretty soon, as far as I know. So I'd also love to hear more about that. I think Oxy, you can go first here. Just want to get a little bit of a diversity of speakers. So yeah.
So we've already gone over the idea of like price discovery, demand aggregation, and all of the cool stuff that make the CCA work. However, in my opinion, from the beginning, something that we need to also talk about is the actual selection of the people that are going to be building in your community, because that's kind of a fundamental problem that you see from many token sales from day one. If you build a token with the wrong people, if it's people that are just there to get a quick flip, have no fundamental understanding of your product, or have like no idea basically what an Umia is, then you cannot really get that far with the community sentiment and all these things. That's why, in addition to the traditional CCA system, we have added what is the Umia extension that runs with zkTLS, the possibility of verifying that like any wallet is eligible for any criteria and lets them access to an early bid. What does this mean? It means that like you can actually prove privately whether somebody fulfills some criteria that you're looking for, and then from there be able to let them into the auction at the earliest opening prices, however you want to push it, and then build a community that actually cares about your product, that actually understand it. And well, we're doing that with Umia, and team, permission to be breaking some alpha here. I think they deserve it. But yeah, I think nobody is saying no like this. On Umia, we have decided to have like 3 very important people that we want to be going with us on this new ecosystem. And I think 8-bit, you're exactly one of the categories they want to be targeting for this. We call them the builders, the allocators, and the decision makers. Because these are the 3 kinds of people that are necessary in any project like Umia that is about starting new projects, participating in decision markets, and actually deciding how these get managed. One of the things, so for example, let me say which one I think is the most exciting one. If you are a MetaDAO participant, if you have traded in the past in a decision market proposal, you will be able to prove privately that you have participated in MetaDAO and be able to access from the early bid period for the 3 days before it becomes public. Additionally, if you have participated in an echo sale, which since it's one of the big token allocators in the past that we find very exciting, you will also be able to participate in the zkTLS round without even disclosing who you are. We want to know which wallet participated in which echo round and which username has, because everything stays within the browser. Or yeah, like if you have participated in an ETH Global Hackathon, if you're a builder, you'll be able to actually show that you have built in the past, keep it private about what project you are, and be able to be part of this early bid. So with this, we're hoping to have from day one the people that actually care about futarchy, that actually care about this token model, and actually believe in what we're building, and actually give us good inputs in the decision markets. Because at the end, the signal quality of the decision market is as important as any other metric, like the TWAP and the activity of it. And yeah, breaking some alpha. I'm hoping this already justifies even more bridging to the EVM.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
go
one
ahead,
more
NFT
thing
boy.
to one more to add, which I think shows the kind of composability and how how interesting the proofs can get. We've also added a ZK proof around anyone who attended the ownership meeting in San Francisco that we were hanging out at 8-bit. So if you can sign in with your Luma invite or your Luma account that was accepted into that event, then you can also get an allocation from that. So yeah, we can really generate proofs around pretty much anything. And again, it doesn't connect your Luma invite, your socials, anything to the wallet. So it's a fully privacy preserving mechanism.
Oh shit, that's actually pretty neat. I like a little proof of my Luma of the owners meeting. That's such a cool idea, man. Damn. I'll definitely do that. because I still have that. I think it's a QR code or something. But yeah, I also
It
wanted
just
to
needs to be
ask you
accepted,
guys.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I also wanted to ask you guys about like I'm not too familiar with EVM, so I just wanted to know like what chain, and this is mostly for the audience, like what chain are you guys launching on? I know for EVM, a lot of times EVM products launch on multiple chains. Is that going to be the case for you guys? Um, and why are you guys launching on the chain that you are launching on? Have you guys always been uh, on the EVM?
So I'm not seeing
Go
any
ahead,
head
boy.
shakes from the rest of the guys. So I'm assuming I can say where we're launching. We are launching on Base for the Umia token. And that's happening in a few days here. But we are compatible with any EVM, meaning we will be able to support auctions and token launches on, let's say, Mainnet, Robinhood, Monad, Binance Smart Chain, etc. The easiest places for us to deploy are places with the Uniswap v4 hooks, but we can also build around where those do not exist yet. And yes, the team has been building on EVM for the last 3 years and is very EVM native, which is why we built it there. Our, I guess, opinion around this is that in the future, probably people don't care that much about which chain they're trading on. And we've built the platform and the app to be chain abstracted, such that the flow doesn't feel like you're on any specific chain. Having said that, there are a lot of friction. There's a lot of friction now around where builders are. They may be on a specific chain's grant program. They may be in hackathons for a specific chain. And so we feel like the best solution for builders is to meet them where they are and deploy instances of it wherever they want to deploy. So that is how we built it. It's fully composable for any EVM. As a user, as a bidder, you will not necessarily know which EVM you're on if you're using Umia's platform. It's super composable. And then as to why we chose Base, there's a number of different reasons. The Base team has been very supportive as we think about things like distribution, volume, but also the kind of best place for the decision marks to actually function themselves in terms of fees, composability, speed, all of these things. Base felt like an obvious answer for building kind of long term. But as we said, we can deploy on other EVMs. So we are in conversations with and speaking to teams, across many different ecosystems.
Yeah, and I guess if you guys are already bringing so much alpha to the table to this conversation, do we know anything about what the first launch beyond Umia will be? Have you guys any plans on that or any ideas on what sort of launches or what sort of builders you guys are targeting? I think I remember in the beginning, you guys mainly
So
targeted like these AI type companies.
yeah.
I don't know if that's still the case, so I would just love to know.
Yeah. So a few things here. The first thing is we're not going to share specific names of projects before our launch for a few reasons. The main one being we want people to evaluate this on the let's say premise of Umia itself, on the importance of this protocol and this technology. Versus trading it for a specific launch or for some other reason. But of course, we will begin announcing those sorts of things, once we are live. Um, in terms of the types of companies, I think we've broadened the scope quite a bit. A lot of this has been with conversations with builders as well as conversations with allocators. And there are a lot of different sectors people want exposure to. There are a lot of different categories of builders that are working on interesting things, where something like Umia or ownership tokens can make sense. We think that the best fit is probably where there is a kind of B2C reflexivity angle and where there is some level of utility for the token within the protocol, within the project. So that is kind of the best fit
But again, we are speaking to also B2B projects, some earlier stage, some later stage, and across a number of different ecosystems. As we think forward, like 6 months plus a year into the future, this is where the, let's say, agentic thesis, I think, really starts to play out. And we are building for that as well with things like CLI integrations, and also targeting kind of solo agentic builders. And we are going to continue to do that as well. But I think that right now the demand is spread across more sectors than just that. And you'll see some diversity in the types of companies that we're launching.
Yeah, I think this is a topic that I would love if either Fra or Oxy could also expand on, especially on the topic of, how do you bring these builders to launch on Umia? Like, what is the plan? What's going to be the secret sauce? Like, how are you approaching this?
I think there is two parts to it. The first one is you need to contextualize what you're doing to the moment that you are in, given the market condition and given the trends that are coming up. The biggest trends that we have is obviously AI, right? The fact that AI changed a lot of working flows of practically anyone in any industry, right? And the second thing is allocation of capital is highly cyclical, and it sort of balances out between retail participation, capital allocation from professional investors, and so on, and ideas practically get funded in those two ways. Then it could be more capital allocators than more retails, but that capital between the two things. So on the first aspect, the AI changing stuff and so on is clear. For example, that now technical mode of like getting to PMF is less than what was before because of AI advance and so on. But finding momentum into like real user base and so on is more difficult because you have more competition. So that is, for example, a toggle that we're playing with to see that when you are in a highly competitive niche or whatever it is, and you have a new type of venture formation platform, venture formation backing, like we're using the Umia token setup and so on, then people are like, oh, wow, then yeah, I can use this as an advantage for my product to succeed. And the simple advantage is I can share ownership and with the token with the early users and all of that. That is the first thing. The second thing is also obviously going into using very new ways to finding talent. We have ambassadors all around the world scouting for project and talents and ideas and trends and so on. And we're just getting started on that. We have around 4 now, and we're just, again, getting started. And then we have many other stuff on being on the ground where it's more needed. We're going to open offices in one of the big cities in the United States to be where people, where we know that there is a lot of interest in what we're doing. On top of that, we are extremely active on social medias, at least to the extent that we can, to contact people, pitch the idea of using this type of framework, explain the benefits, explain if it caters to what they want to do, and move from there. And we've seen that obviously that works a lot, and works a lot mainly because the moment that we can sit down with the founders and go step by step on the qualities of this framework, if it's the related industry and sector that benefits realistically and fundamentally from this, they will get it. So that is the ultimate step, right? Look for them, gather information, sit down, explain, be extremely, and that is how we're gonna move to get the best projects slowly into the door and proceed. Yeah.
I guess like you already covered a lot of it, Fra, but I think the other thing that I would add is just this idea that if you want to be launching on-chain as a crypto native founder, this feels like one of the most aligned ways to be able to grow along with your community. Like, people have already seen the playbook way too many times. They're already familiar with like how other token launches usually go. They already struggle to be believing on this kind of idea. So the kind of people, up until a couple of days ago, they could have said bear market, but I don't know what market we're in right now. But the people they're saying right now are the ones that are like more led by fundamentals. They're the ones that actually want something new and an actual iteration on the model. And being able to tell people that you're able to launch a system like ours has already been like a very big appeal for the crypto native founders that want to be launching along with their community, not just building their own thing with having the community in a different world, but actually being able to iterate with them and actually be able to fund the ideas that they want. So yeah, it's been pretty exciting seeing so many builders like that.
Yeah, I think we kind of covered everything, everything I wanted. That being said, I do want to give an opportunity for each and every one of you to add something at the end. So maybe we missed something, maybe, you wanted to expand on a topic or something. This is your moment, so we can just go, one by one, starting with NFTboi, and then Fra, and then Oxytocin, and then each and every one of you, I guess, like, however much time you need to talk about whatever you may have thought that we missed during this conversation.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the time. 8-Bit, enjoyed meeting you in person and appreciate you giving us a platform to explain what we're doing and walk through this in a more long form. So thank you for that and appreciate the professionalism and all those kinds of things. The last thing I would like to add is basically that this is an ongoing endeavor. This is a early in the curve idea, futarchy. We are, I would say, at the frontier of finance. I know that is a bit of a meme, but genuinely, I think futarchy is. And we want people who want to be part of that journey, and not just, let's say, holders, but also actively contributing. And so the direction which all of this goes depends pretty heavily, because obviously of how decision markets work, on who participates. And so we encourage people, not just to look at this as, a static project, but rather encourage them to, if they're interested in all of this, to get involved and actually participate in things like decision markets to essentially steer the direction of the protocol, because ultimately that is the, purpose of what we are building. So that's the last thing that I wanted to say. But again, appreciate the platform and the time.
I wanted to say the same thing.
Guess I'll go next. I feel like mainly, I think we already covered everything. Only thing that I would add is if you want to ask any questions, if you want to know anything about futarchy, about how CCA works, we know that this is still a very new mechanism. We know there's a lot of things to wrap your head around. So we're all accessible. We just one XTM away. We have a Telegram community. And with the auction happening now in like 5 days, now is a great time to like do a bit of your own research and due diligence and be able to clear up everything that you might be wondering about. We feel that we're building something new, something very different, but I know that like coming from the outside, you might be confused or like completely burnt out of tokens. And I really want to convince anyone that is listening to this that we are actually changing the way tokens are going to be working on DVM. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think last up, Fra, it's you can say your last words, or whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. No, I meant I said I really want to say exactly what NFTboi said, and I genuinely believe like we have the biggest opportunity in a market, not as Umia, but rather as a niche sector that is this sector that we are all fascinated by. The potential is huge, and I'm obviously a huge proponent of collaborating as much as possible, because more we collaborate and more we prove that this primitive can actually change not just tokens. It can actually change what you can do on blockchain, what alternative assets are defined as, what type of financial primitive exists, how people govern and how people coordinate across it, and across making decisions and across managing assets together and so on. And more, we have the opportunity to build something meaningful, which is the big reason why we started all of this. So yeah, that's all. And really thank you for the time, and very, very excited to continue talking and presenting and collaborating.
Yeah, all right. So I think that's it for this stream today, guys. I want to really thank the Umia team for joining us today. It was really exciting. It was lovely to hear about a different iteration of futarchy decision markets and what we call ownership coins. I really can't wait to actually see them in action, and I really wish them the best going forward with their ICO and all the projects that launch there. So yeah, that's it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.